before I made my most recent short film, Witchfish, which I shot on my iPhone 15 Pro. And even though I had one of the best Rode Wireless Pro mics, the DJI mic can integrate directly with the iPhone. Hold on to that for a sec. The receiver has a USB Live, which is very useful, especially for iPhone shooting. Another great feature of these DJI Mic 2s is the battery life. And the first night of shooting, I think we were there for 8 hours, and I probably had these out and plugged in for 5 of those hours. Never had any battery issues. Finished the shoot, put them back in the charging case here, just like a giant AirPods case really. Charges it up when you put them in here, and got ready for the next day. I showed up the next day, I start shooting, and before I know it, one of the transmitters is dying. I'm like, wow, that thing died really quick. So I pop in the other transmitter, and I let this thing charge before we have to pull both transmitters out for me and Tony's dialogue scene. What I didn't realize is the reason this thing was dying was because the whole charging case had died because I didn't charge up the charging case. And you'll notice every time I open up this case, you get these 4 lights on. That's a good thing to pay attention to when you're on a shoot. Are 4 lights coming on or are no lights coming on when you open this thing up? So no lights were coming on. I was just putting dead transmitters into this thing and just letting it sit dead overnight and during the shoot, which meant that I had to actually stop shooting to charge up the whole charging case. And fortunately it charges up really fast. So I was able to get going again in like 15 minutes and continue shooting, but I just felt so dumb putting it into a dead charging case. The charging case will give you 18 hours of life for everything. Very handy, just make sure you actually charge it. Now, before we go any further, there's a couple of key settings I messed up when I was making my film. So I'll quickly show you what they are. Now for the dialogue scene in this film, obviously I had both mics running at the same time, but I caught a mistake after the first take or two, which if you go into your settings on the receiver just by swiping down and you go to receiver settings, I had it set to mono, like that. I thought that would give me 2 mono tracks. That's not how it works, okay? If you have 2 audio sources and they're both going into 1 mono track, then you're getting both mics combined into 1 track. That means you can't split them up in post. It's not what you want. You want to have control in post for your audio. So by going to stereo, just by tapping it a couple times, now you get this LR button lit up, and that means that you're getting 1 mic in the left track of the stereo track and 1 mic in the right track. And then in any post-production software, you can control those tracks individually, so you have much better control of your audio. I'll show you how to do that later in this video. Now, if you're only gonna be using 1 mic, then I highly recommend taking advantage of the safety track feature, which gives you a mono track. And if you turn that on, that means the right channel will be recorded slightly quieter so that you can suddenly yell and then it won't clip the audio as easily. You'll still have to take it into your editing program and break it out to 2 mono tracks, otherwise it'll just sound slightly quieter in the right speaker for everybody that's listening, but very simple, quick thing to do in post and gives you that extra little bit of protection. Okay, so that was setting number 1 that I almost messed up, but I did catch that after the first take or 2. So set it to stereo if you're using 2 mics. DJI Mic 2 does have recommended camera settings, so you can plug in your camera. They don't have one for the iPhone. I just set my own receiver gain. I found for the iPhone, bumping it up even to plus 10 decibels works great. And this thing does give you the option to pair your transmitter directly to the iPhone, and the Blackmagic camera app can pick that up. Unfortunately, I wouldn't recommend this for any actual narrative films because the quality over Bluetooth is much lower than what you're gonna get with the receiver, and the receiver's so compact, there's really no reason not to use it. Real quick, let's talk transmitter settings. You're probably not gonna want low cut turned on. That's just going to cut out the lower frequencies, which is good if you're just trying to immediately take your audio onto Instagram or something like that. And the last handy feature I wanna talk about with the receiver is this big wheel here. This is an improvement from the original DJI mic. So you can click in, you can change the volume of the transmitter, and you see how it lights up yellow at the top like that. You click it again, it lights up the transmitter. So this is a great way to make adjustments to your recording levels on the fly. This thing does have noise canceling features, like you can click that and it'll cancel the noise. Okay, so now I got my air conditioner going. You can probably hear that. And let's see what happens when I click the noise cancellation button. Do I sound quieter? Is the AC still really noisy? Now, I don't like to use this kind of thing because I do my cleanup in Premiere and Adobe Audition, and I have plugins, and I can really get in there and do it the way I want. If I do it in here, I'm kind of locked into the way the DJI mic wanted to clean up the audio, and I'm not gonna get that kind of granularity of control that I want. So let's listen to that beautiful air conditioner again. These things also have insane wireless range. Like in most normal narrative film shooting scenarios, you're not gonna run into interference because you're too far away from the receiver, which is great to know. Okay, ready? And action. Freeze. Okay. Since she kicks open the door and makes a loud noise as she comes in, but then the rest of the audio is just kind of like softer breaths and grunts, this is actually a really good time to use the 32-bit float audio that we can record internally on her transmitter. And the cool thing is I can trigger the recording remotely from here. So if I just swipe up and hit record, now it's recording on her transmitter in 32-bit float, which means we'll be able to recover the clipped audio of the door banging and all of that and still get the lighter sounds. So I'll just have to sync it up in post. It's one extra step, but it's worth it for any clip where you're gonna have people screaming or yelling or throwing something really loud, and then also quiet moments. Really handy. Okay, let's do it.
32-bit float, am I right?
That's right. Rolling and action. However, key thing to note, it won't record 32-bit float audio to your camera, okay? It only does it internally in the transmitters. Fortunately, these transmitters can store a ton of 32-bit float audio, and I would actually recommend recording on these at all times when you're on set. Which brings me to the next setting that I neglected on here, the one that caused me probably the most grief, auto record. Okay. Click into that, turn it on, don't even think about it. Just always leave this on, especially if you're on a film set. What that means is you open up the set, pull these things out, they both vibrate, they both light up red. See that? That means they're both recording. And they will keep recording from the moment you take them out of the set until the moment you put them back in. And what that's gonna do is it's gonna give you really data-rich 32-bit float audio for the entire day. So if something were to happen, if you were to get some wireless interference between your receiver and the mic, if you were to take off the receiver, like I did during the shoot, to recharge it in the case, and then forget to put it back on the iPhone, then the wireless transmitter would still be recording, and sure, it would take a little time to dig through the hours of audio, but you would have the audio and you wouldn't have to go back and re-record all of your own takes of the dialogue scene because you weren't actually recording the audio. That's what happened to me. Don't create room for easy mistakes like that, especially if you're a one-man band, you're doing the audio, you're filming, you're directing, you're acting. Something's gonna get lost in the shuffle. If you have auto record on, this won't be one of them. So now we've covered the most important settings for the DJI Mic 2, but let's talk about how to actually mic up your actors. We don't want to see these little transmitters, okay? This is the difference between making a narrative film and making like a Sam Sulek YouTube video where you can just clip this to your hat and it's gonna sound great and you don't have to worry about the fact that people can see the transmitter right there. We have to hide this. We have to create that sense of we're in a fantasy land where microphones don't exist. So we got the DJI Lav mic here. It's just like a normal lapel mic. It's got this little gator clip here, which is kind of nice because it rotates. But on the other hand, since she's wearing like just one layer of fabric here, it's gonna make a big bump in her chest if we were to hide that under her shirt. It'll also pinch up the fabric. So for an interview or something, it's fine to just show the lav mic and just clip it to the top of her shirt. Whoops, sorry. But since we're in a film, it'd probably make more sense to take off the clip and use just the mic itself and tape it to her sternum right here. So, moleskin is really good for hiding lapel mics for narrative filmmaking. Cut off a strip and then maybe cut that in half, make one a little bigger than the other. And you do what's called a moleskin sandwich, where you just put the mic in between two layers of moleskin like that. Take your smaller piece and just sandwich it in so that the top is kind of hanging out the top of the bigger piece like that. And that just cradles in the mic, and it's gonna prevent a lot of movement and rustling on the mic surface so that it just sounds cleaner. And then the back of this moleskin, once you peel this off, it sticks to skin really well. So It's just a great secure way to get your actor mic'd up. Another thing you can do is to create a little loop like this, and then just add a little bit of tape right there in the cinch of the loop. And what that will do is give you a little bit of wiggle room. If there's a yanking on the cord, it won't yank the whole thing off. It'll, just close that loop a little bit. So you're just gonna tape this pointing straight up, just like right here in the middle of your chest, okay? But once you place a mic, and especially when you're working with these lav mics, you can't just assume that it's gonna sound good just because your placement is good. You have to listen to playback. You have to record a little test, or even just listen to it live on the receiver there. There's so many things that can ruin your audio. Let's check the audio on that, make sure we're sounding clean.
Mic check, mic check. Mic check, mic check.
Walk around for me. Say something.
Mic check, mic check.
Super clean audio.
Santa Story Company. Santa Story Company. Subscribe, like and subscribe.
Now these DJI lav mics, even without the gator clip, are a little bit chunky. So you might still be able to see it in your actor depending on what they're wearing. Like you can see a little bump here. If you're a trained audio person, you know to look out for that kind of stuff. You'll see it in TV shows and movies all the time. High-end Hollywood lav mics are teeny tiny. They can be the size of like a pinhead, which makes them much easier to hide in different places on a character's wardrobe. But you and I aren't trying to spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on a lav mic, right? So let's make do with what we got right here, because there are always creative solutions that let you get away with getting great audio if you're willing to just invest a little time into it. For example, when we were shooting Witchfish and I had to mic up Tony, first I just mic'd her to her sternum just like this. But later she transforms into the sexy witch and we gave her these prosthetic boobs and a plunging black dress so you wouldn't be able to hide it on the sternum. We had to find a new place. So we can't wire the mic in the same place as last time because we have this plunging shirt with these rubber top here. And this also won't stick too well to this silicone. So we could put it in the hair, which we've tested out before. It makes a little bit of noise. It's a nice easy thing for an actress with black hair though. But even easier is, in this case, I think just sticking it right under this black fabric and running the cord around her back. We've just safety pinned it here, and it's just kind of keeping it in the same zone at least. But the fabric already has some pressure. She's not moving too much, so it's angled towards her mouth. And now we'll just connect it to this and clip it on the back of her waist strap, and then we're good. A little sound test.
Mic check, mic check. Busty witch coming at ya.
Do a little turn your body a little bit.
Here I am talking, moving my head seductively.
Nice. Yeah, we're good. Unfortunately, Tony got pretty good audio for the whole shoot. However, my character's wardrobe was much more challenging for audio, and I didn't think about this ahead of time, but I definitely should have. The fabric or material of my cloak that I was wearing was super thick, and it was like polyester on the inside. Polyester is a really noisy fabric, especially on lav mics. Any kind of movement, you're gonna hear it. And the thickness of the fabric meant that even though I found a good place to hide it right under my collar, it was so thick and it was like polyester on one side and some kind of velvet or suede on the other that it was muffling the hell out of my audio. So that, coupled with the fact that my wig hair was rubbing up right against this collar.
Listen, Sandy, before we go any further,
I think I could clean it up and get it just about usable. But in this case, it was just a lot easier to ADR that dialogue and get it sounding crisp and clean. ADR just stands for automated dialogue replacement. It's also known as looping. It's basically just when you play back the clip that has the bad audio and you just voice over or dub in your own voice to redo it in post. This audio isn't even that bad. It's just the crickets are pretty loud and there's a moment where I brush my hair back past my shoulder and it kind of messed up that line. And when I clean it up, it actually does sound pretty good, but I just feel like I'm right here. I've got the same mic I recorded the line with. Why not get it perfect? So this is how I do it in Premiere. I just set an in point, set an out point. You don't want to be doing too many lines at once. And then you can hit this button to loop playback. And then when you hit play, it'll just start it from the beginning. And that's why they call it looping, because you just loop through the same thing over and over again. All right, so let's do it line by line.
listen,
Listen. Listen.
Sandy, before we go any further, Sandy, before we go any further. Sandy, before we go any further. I gotta come clean with you. I gotta come clean with you. I don't know how to say this, so. I'm a warlock. I'm a warlock.
And then to transfer the audio files off of the transmitter onto your computer, just use the USB-C port on the side here, plug that into your computer. There it is, double click, and there's all of your audio recordings that were recorded on device. Then we'll import that. And we got a lot of audio here.
Andy, before we go any further.
Looks like it's still a little quiet, so let's bump that up. I'll hit G, bump this up by like 12
Sandy,
decibels.
before we go any further. All right. Sandy, before we go any further. Sandy, before we go any further.
Let's say I like the first take here. So I'll just cut this out, copy it, go to my endpoint where the line is.
Sandy, before we go any further.
And let's just paste it in.
Sandy, before we go any further.
Try to line it up, maybe one frame over.
Sandy, before we go any further.
It's pretty good. Let's turn off the original audio.
Sandy, before we go any further.
That's great. Let's do one more line.
I gotta come clean with you.
So sometimes even your best ADR take won't perfectly match up, and you might have to get in there and like just cut a frame out of part of it like this. I just want you to come one frame earlier. And I'll do a little cross dissolve between these two. Maybe I'll get away with this.
I gotta come clean with you.
And then of course, if you really want to get advanced, you can click this little hamburger here and you can go to show audio time units. And now you can maneuver these clips beyond just one frame apart. You can get way, way, way down. So for example, if it looks like clean starts actually right here, just by looking at the waveforms. So now I can bring this over just like the tiniest fractions of a second. Maybe that's where I want it to be.
I gotta come clean with you.
That looks great. And then turn that back off by checking it again. Now we're back to frame by frame.
Clean with you.
All right, so here's a great example of what you're gonna get when you record audio with the DJI Mic 2, whether you're doing it straight to the camera or internally. So in this case, this blue clip is the audio recorded directly to my iPhone through the receiver. And you'll see I have 2 tracks of audio, but they're actually giving me 2 different microphones audio. So if we listen to it, see how these green bars are at different levels here, but they fluctuate. And then she screams. So we can actually break these apart, but just to show you, if you go to audio channels and you just click L and L, now we're only getting the left track audio. Bars are even. You can tell by the fact that the audio sounds distant. This is my mic. In fact, I'll bump it up a little so you can hear it better. Sorry, this is her mic.
I gotta come clean with you. I gotta be honest. I wanna start.
So when she has a line,
It's really brave of you.
her audio sounds much better. Now if we flip it around, audio channels, we only do the right channel.
I normally don't tell women because they get scared and it gets weird, but
My audio sounds good.
I gotta come clean with you.
So the right channel is my audio, the left channel is hers. Now there's 2 ways that you can control the audio independently instead of having them both lumped together like this. You can hold Alt or Option, click on the clip, drag down, you'll create a duplicate of it. And then you can do what we just did. You can right click, go to audio channels, and then just select left, left, hit OK. Do the same thing for the bottom one, audio channels, right, right, OK. And now
Scared and it gets weird, but I gotta come clean with you. I gotta be honest. I wanna start.
you've got my audio down here,
Off.
and you've got her audio up here.
That's who I am.
It's really brave of you.
Boom. But what about this part over here where it gets super loud because she's screaming this spell? And cover your ears. Way too loud. And you can tell by this flat line at the top that it's peaking, it's clipping, and that distorts the audio. It's not what we want. Now, here's the problem. When audio is recorded directly through the receiver and into your iPhone, your camera, whatever you're recording with, if you go to like negative 30 dB audio, you see how it's still a flat line at the top here? And it still sounds distorted. That is not what we want. That's not 32-bit float audio. The internal recordings over here are 32-bit float audio. And we can actually sync them up, so that's the first thing we gotta do. This is 2 different tracks that I started recording at 2 different times on each of the recorders. So if I just select everything and right click and hit synchronize, audio track channel 1, sure, hit OK. And now everything's all synced up. And if I turn off the in-camera audio, like that, Shift E to disable those clips. Now it's still clipping. See how it's still a flat line up here? But in this audio, we can actually fix it. And I'm gonna turn off my mic, just use her mic, and let's cut this clip right before she yells this spell out. And just for this loud part, I'll hit G, I'll bring the gain down by, let's say 15 decibels. But uh-oh, you say, Ken, it's still a flat line, but that's a lie. And if you right click it and you hit render and replace, look what just got introduced to the equation, data. See these non-flat lines? That is the full unclipped audio of her lines. Now we can listen to it. And it sounds great.
You're still in a heavy metal band, right?
So then I would just take her quieter line, cut that out, bring that way up so it's louder.
I mean, you're still in a heavy metal band, right?
Get rid of the other stuff, take my audio. Also gonna make it a lot louder.
No, that was part of the cover story. Just to
add some cross dissolves between these. Cut out my mic when she's talking. Cut out her mic when I'm talking. And now we've got audio that we can work with. We've got tons of data. We can raise up the volume, bring it back down, and we know it's all going to be there. And then you end up with something like this.
I mean, you're still in a heavy metal band, right?
No, that was like part of the cover to explain the whole. I don't play any instruments, but I hope it didn't mislead you or anything.